Honorable Professor Miša Rakocija, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Veoma poštovani profesore Miša Rakocija, dragi kolege, dame I gospodo. When Khalil Gibran says, beauty is eternity gazing itself in a mirror, not does he only reflect his diversified poetic essence spiced with both Sufi mysticism and biblical parables. He actually directs the notion of aesthetic significance to the more substantiated origin of its historic acknowledgement. Not diverging entirely from Plato's idea of beauty as an objective feature, nor of Aristotle's perception that beauty can be seen in the aesthetic dimensions of the images, Gibran aims at the ultimate ideological horizon of beauty, which to my personal knowledge is its eternal desirability, everlasting quintessence, and immortal visual potential. The nature of beauty is one of the most enduring and controversial themes in modern philosophy, and together with the nature of art, is one of the two fundamental issues in philosophical aesthetics. Moreover, beauty has traditionally been counted among the ultimate human values with goodness, truth, and justice, and not only in the course of antiquity and Renaissance. Always perceived as a alluring subject of unconditional admiration, regardless of its physical or spiritual dimension, never has beauty ever been so fascinating feature of visual perfection as in our contemporary, highly consumerist world of today. Movie industry, performing arts, sports, pageants, cosmetology, health products, even household religiousness are all submitted to the predominant, excessively powerful, ever-growing, and all-consuming dimension of beauty. However, one should not forget that the modern world in its postmodern course is only a kaleidoscopic compound of past ideas, notions, and concepts visualized in desirable spectacles made pleasant to our eyes and conciliatory for our souls. In that regard, the historic personages of today are represented in their most appealing appearance, as were their predecessors from centuries long gone, but still not forgotten. It is a statement based on visual evidence, as well as painterly records, kept alive in historic monuments, sacred edifices, and monastic endowments. Some of them will be included in this presentation due to their uncompromising, unrestricted, undeniable, yet historically sustainable celebration of beauty. The physical appearance of historic characters, male and female, within the fresco arrangements of Byzantine provenance, among other things, served as a powerful instrument for visually enhanced socio-religious action, and therefore, it should have been designed and depicted in the most corresponding manner. That manner encompassed distinctive features of physiognomy, facial exposition, stance, corporal expression, attitude, temper, costume, and accessories as structural components of their psychological chemistry, as well as physical attractiveness, united in the aesthetically provocative and artistically compelling compound of beauty. In that regard, the portraits of female individuals were adorned with gentle outlooks, tenderness, and affectionate nature, while the images of male characters received features of vigorous outlooks, full-blooded energy, and uncompromising virility. Here are some of the most tempting examples from Macedonian medieval fresco painting. The top position among male individuals from the Byzantine era, at least judging from the evidence of Macedonian fresco painting, but not restricted to it, is occupied by the handsome, charming, and highly charismatic Grand Duke, later Sevastokrator and Despot, Jovan Oliver. His pictorial portraits, 3 altogether, in Lesnovan House, in the chapel dedicated to St. John the Baptist in the Cathedral Church of St. Sophia in Ohrid, and again in Lesnova in the Nartex area, reveal what is probably the most appealing male character in Macedonian Middle Ages. fair complexion, high forehead, elongated facial oval, almond-shaped eyes, long lashes, trimmed eyebrows, higher cheekbones, strong jawline, thin mustaches, neatly combed beard, ebony dark hair, shoulder length and styled in resplendent locks, and, last but not least, slightly wrinkled forehead as a delicate suggestion of his age, which should be approximately determined as him being in his late 30s or less probably in his mid-40s. The body looms large and highly athletic with muscular frame with waist to shoulder ratio of 1 to 2 and waist to chest ratio of 1 to 1.5. Although Jovan Oliver's exact height can be easily determined with modern forensic methods used by reconstructive archaeology, it is quite obvious from his portrait that it exceeds 6 feet by more than 2 or 3 inches. If one adds his elongated fingers, the graceful manners of manual motion, and his dignified corporal stance to this description, one gets an elegant stature of a handsome individual as a physical presentation of a genuinely structured male confidence. His tailor-made costume, lavishly decorated with fashionable details, yet precisely designed to reflect his extraordinary feudal rank, is a much more complicated story. Such a charismatic person, depicted with extraordinary courage and audacity in a tutorial scene in the Lesnovo Naos, designed completely out of the legitimate parameters of representation, with such a great looks, position, wealth, and social respect, was blessed with a beautiful, stylishly dressed up, and appropriately adorned spouse as well. In that sense, the Despotes Anna Maria in her portrait from the Lesnovo Narthex appears as a dream woman from the fantasy of 1,001 men. She actually responds to the golden ratio of beauty pi, founded upon the methods and standards that the Hellenic scholars applied while trying to define beauty with scientific formulas. Hence, in regard to the facial features, the golden ratio is 1.6, which means a beautiful person's face is about 1.5 times longer than it is wide. Next, if the measures from the forehead line to a spot between the eyes, from between the eyes to the bottom of the nose, and from the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin are equal, the person is considered extraordinarily beautiful. Finally, the length of an ear should be equal to the length of the nose, and the width of an eye should be equal to the distance between the eyes. If one should apply all the mentioned criteria, established by ancient scholars and profoundly researched by Dr. Kendra Schmidt, professor of biostatistics at the University of Nebraska, one will get the face of Jovan Oliver's wife, the beautiful and delicately charming Anna Maria. Tall and slender, elegant and graceful, she certainly does not fall behind her husband, neither in regard to her glamorous outfit, nor to her valuable accessories. The second runner-up in our category of beautiful women, depicted in Macedonian medieval fresco painting, is the tall, firm, and undeniably attractive Lady Vladislava, the wife of Sevastokrator Vlatko from the monastery of Psacha. Looking confident yet caring, standing proud yet gentle, presented hefty yet elegant, depicted assertive yet fragile, Vladislava radiates with sophisticated charm and dignified corporal position, as if her exquisite and highly refined ladyship should glow with delicate gender sensitivity and irresistible feminine vulnerability. Her tailor-made dress reveals corporal structure, which can certainly concur with the socially constructed and widely spread notion that physical attractiveness is one of woman's most important assets and something all ladies should strive to achieve and maintain. If one should perceive Vladislava's figure according to the definition that woman's body is a cumulative product of her skeletal structure and quantitative distribution of muscle and fat, one should be prepared to conclude that the wife of Sevastokrator Vlatko has one of the most beautiful body shape in medieval Macedonia, and that he was a very lucky man to have such a gorgeous spouse. Although she does not possess an hourglass figure, which according to modern investigation is a beauty given to only 8% of all women, she certainly has a slim physique belonging to the rectangular body shape, defined as that of a healthy and fit female. From an evolutionary perspective, which defines woman's beauty as a correlation between fertility and health, Lady Vladislava seems to be an affirmative case of such a determination, being a mother of 3 and looking young and vigorous, with a moderate candidness as a psychological attitude and almost athletic fitness as her physical, or better to say, aesthetic virtue. If one talks about beauty and analyzes the attractiveness in men as a physical quality of their visual appearance, one should not forget the most celebrated of all Macedonian medieval characters, a brave yet tragic individual who has fought the last battle of life on the threshold of the forthcoming, historically turbulent and not so glamorous Ottoman period, the legendary King Marko. Unlike his portrait, enclosed in the tutorial arrangement within the illustration of the heavenly court in the interior of the church dedicated to St. Demetrius in Sušica, completely devastated and deprived of visual exposition, his other 2 representations, one of which is depicted sideways of the entrance to the temple of St. Archangel Michael in Prilep, and the other pictured on the southern facade of Marko's monastery, reveal an interesting perspective in what might have been an image of a highly desirable, irresistibly appealing, and unconditionally handsome man in medieval Macedonia. Namely, his portraits, both in Prilep and Sušica, emanate a visual construct of a large, well physically built, strong and dignified male character with facial features which come in line with the dark, sharp, and expressive physiognomy. Although the verses of epic poetry and the narratives of folk literature describe King Marko as a man with a terrifying appearance, saying that his mustache was the size of a 6-month-old lamb and his weapon weighed nearly 100 kilos, while his hand grip was strong enough to squeeze drops of water from a piece of dry wood, which is a definite allusion, at least to me, of Ivan Meštrović's sculpture of the historic hero riding his chariots. The medieval portraits of King Marko do not look like they're displaying a formidable hero, rather a noble individual with a dignified stance, elegant posture, and imposingly regal character. In that regard, in the picture preserved on the facade of St. Archangel Michael in Prilep, Marko's elegance is emphasized by his clear white outfit, a lavishly decorated snowy sakos, which covers his tall and slender figure, stressing at the same time the magnitude of Marko's corporal masculinity. No exaggerations of his carnal features, nor of his brutal manliness can be found in this representation produced in the aftermath of the Marica battle. However, his rigorous facial expression, captured by the strongly arched eyebrows, firmly closed lips, and the stern gaze of his deep, dark, and anxiously staring eyes, screams with the bitter energy of frozen dynamics, boiling with restlessness, and ready to burst into ravaging flames. In his other portrait, depicted on the south facade of Marko's monastery, the king has a different facial expression, a different type of crown and outfit, and definitely a different attitude, most probably generated in the specific political circumstances of the historic momentum around 1390. As we have pointed out in one of our previous Niche and Byzantium presentations, the extraordinarily designed image of King Marko on the facade of his endowment in Sušica was painted as a visually structured metaphor of his royal legitimacy after the death of his political rivals in the Battle of Kosovo Polje. In that regard, he is holding a replica of the horn with the ointment of which Old Testament kings were anointed by their coronation. This certainly makes King Marko's portrait in Sušica much more ceremonial than the one in Prilep, since the dark purple robe, which says, "I am no longer in mourning for my dead father," altogether with the massive horn full of ritual ointment, are the main contributors to Marco's solemnly royal appearance. In comparison to the lavishly adorned portrayal spectacle of Marco Imprile, depicted with glamorous crown and pearly prependulia, his visual aspect in Sušica looks much more austere and unpretentious, yet more realistic and lifelike for the ruler who was much more a defender and a safekeeper than a true king and a glamorous monarch. Charismatic and appealing, bold, fearless, and masculine, King Marco has earned his place among the handsome males of the medieval era on the account of his manly outlook, as well as his mythologized bravery and historic virility. Thank you for your attention and see you all next year in Niš. Hvala vam na pažnji i sljedeće godine vidimo se u Nišu.